Smash my heart into
Right.
pieces.
This
This
is
is
my
my
last
last resort. He said he about that life. All right. Fuck around and find out.
Hey, Aunteas, this is Quinton from QCarePlus. What's brewing today?
Introducing Auntea Q
PrEP education.
and Ask Your Aunties, shoot your shot.
So get your cups ready for Minoritea Report.
Well, welcome to Minoritea Report. It's Auntea Kerel.
It's Auntea Kerel.
And you won't hear Dawon, unfortunately, in this episode. He's dealing with some family matters right now. So we're thinking of you, boo. Al.
Yeah, and everything is fine. Don't
everything's
be concerned.
good.
Don't
Exactly.
He's just hanging out with the family right
Exactly.
now. You know, that's
Exactly.
it. So,
He had to make
no
sure
worries.
the fam was good. But in the meantime, we do have a special guest in this episode. And if you see it, obviously on YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell button, and all that cool shit.
And if you're not, you should go be looking on YouTube because you know.
Right?
I
know.
That wasn't for you. That was for the guest on team.
That's true.
Hey.
There we go. Definitely. But we have Quinton Rasberry from QCarePlus. But what is your auntie name?
My aunt's name is Auntea Q.
Okay.
Q.
Oh, he just kept.
I say Auntie. I'm from the South, so.
Yeah,
Auntie M. Auntea Q. So he didn't even go with the beverage. He's like, you could just call him Q.
Cute.
Call him Q.
We're gonna stick with the theme, the Qs.
Right. No doubt. And you're actually here in Atlanta, aren't you?
I am. I'm based in Atlanta. I'm originally from Louisiana, but I am living in Atlanta, Georgia now.
What part of Louisiana?
A really small town. I literally graduated with 18 people from a public high school, so nowhere anyone really wants to go, or no one knows where it's on the map. But a little bit north of Lake Charles, so that area got hit really hard last year at the storm. So that's really, I was like, oh, when I would tell people that's where I'm from, that area. So it was like the claim to fame there.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I thought I graduated a small class. Like I graduated with 86 people, and I was like, and everyone was like, really? So 18? I'm like, damn. We were a metropolitan area.
Right, yeah. My first college course, I like stepped into a biology class and I was like, there's more people in here than my entire town.
Wow. And then she said, I gotta get out. You had to get out of there.
Never looked back. Never looked back.
Right, I know. It's like, I love where I'm from. I like visiting back where I'm from, but I can never go and live back there, I don't think.
That's how I feel about Gary too.
It's like, been there, done that. Grateful for where I came from, but and almost Atlanta's probably the smallest size of a city I could probably almost live in at this point. Like coming from like Chicago.
I came from New Orleans, and so like the culture is like different, like the party culture and like life culture in New Orleans compared to here. But yeah, I'm settling in well. I love it here. Yeah. I've been here for 4.5 years now, and I'm calling it home now.
Oh, that's good. That's
nice.
Good. Ooh, Southern Decadence. So that means you probably into Southern Decadence and all of that.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
Maybe
we saw that shoulder.
Right. It's like, you know. That shoulder was like, oh, I got some stories.
Get a purple drink and then it's another story.
Ooh, I know that's still on my list. But Corey's like, bitch, you ain't going to the Southern Decadence. I'm like, I'm a grown man. I can do what I want. Maybe not. Maybe not. But anyway,
you can make it what you want it to be.
And if I go to Southern Decadence, I want it to be something.
You're gonna come home with a souvenir.
Oh, gee. Oh, I hope not. Just stories. But anyway, quiz from QCarePlus. What is QCarePlus?
So QCarePlus is a telemedicine solution that the purpose is to increase access to PrEP. So we do PrEP completely from home, including at-home labs, at-home doctor visits, We partner with nonprofits to make sure that everything is 100% free to patients. And then we partner with pharmacies to send the prescriptions directly to patients' doors. So essentially, someone never has to leave their house to access PrEP. They can do it all from wherever they are on the go. It also gives people a little bit of flexibility to access PrEP. Instead of having to go to your doctor, instead of having to go in for labs every 3 months, we can do everything from home.
And what is PrEP? Like for those, like we know what PrEP is, but we do have some allies and straight folks that might not know what PrEP stands for and why it's important for, especially the Black and Brown communities, but just like the LGBTQ plus communities. What is PrEP?
Yeah, absolutely. So PrEP is a once daily medication that is 99% effective in preventing HIV. So folks who are negative for HIV can take PrEP to prevent HIV. Additionally, people who do test positive for HIV, U equals U. And so between PrEP and getting people to undetectable equals untransmittable, we have a means to end the HIV epidemic.
And that's key. We preach that on here.
U equals U.
Seriously, because there's a lot of ignorant people out there.
Yeah, it's two-sided, and one of the pieces that we'll talk about today, I'm sure, is how stigma plays such a role into HIV care, and for people scared to get tested or scared to get on PrEP, and how together it's basically a prevention strategy combined with understanding my risk, understanding medication, and using medication as a tool to prevent and lower those risks of HIV.
Absolutely. And I feel, especially living here now in Atlanta, there's a lot of Black and Brown community just within the city that's within the gay world. And it's just been interesting, that stigma piece that still is so prevalent in these communities, where it's just like, just being out is a whole thing. And then not being out potentially and not having all the education that you potentially may need to make wise sexual choices. It's been quite interesting. Like I have a friend that works for a major pharmaceutical company, and his role is around like HIV prevention and things like that and awareness. And he's like, yeah, Atlanta's like one of the top cities in the country where HIV is still spreading quite prevalently. So we're excited to have you on here.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta, there's a really scary statistic based here, and it's 1 in 2 Black men who have sex with men, or MSM, are likely to be diagnosed with HIV in their lifetime. 50%, that is just insane, especially when we have the CDC located here in Atlanta. Like that we have everything, all the resources here, and it's like, what is going on? And like we said earlier, the stigma piece plays a big role in that. Being able to talk to your doctors about sexual health, I think, is also just another huge component that I'm excited to talk about today. It's just opening up to your doctor about having sex. It's exactly to you to open up to your doctor as your doctor to ask those questions. But those questions have to be asked in order for people to really understand PrEP and their prevention strategies as a whole.
Like, how important is it to have potentially a gay doctor or an LGBTQIA plus doctor in those conversations? Do you find, I'm not sure if there's data out there that shows that those that do have maybe a doctor that's part of the community, those conversations are easier or are had more often? Or is it still upon doctors to make sure they're having these nonetheless, whether it is a gay, straight, whatever doctor?
I think it's a little more complex than that. Like, you could have a gay doctor and still not feel comfortable opening up to him. You might be like your doctor, and you're like, I don't want to let him know about
what I did at Southern Decadence.
Look, I want to see him at the club.
So yeah, you might like be a little like shy to open up to your doctor. Additionally, that doctor could be rushed. A lot of times, healthcare, they're like, I'm in here for 10 minutes, they want to know everything about you in 10 minutes. And sometimes that's not really the best practice. And it does take people time to open up to their doctors, to trust their doctor, to talk about these things and talk about their sexual health. And I mean, and sex is super private, especially in the South. We're always talking about sex. typically schools, don't really teach a lot of sex ed. They teach more abstinence, which we all know doesn't work. There's a whole other complexity of religion that goes on top of it, that people don't want to talk about sex. But it's a normal everyday thing that people do, that people desire, people want to have those experiences, and no one should be ashamed of that. That's a completely natural desire. Doing it safely and understanding your risk with doing it is something that we do need to continue to educate people on. And that does go down to the providers as well. Providers like starting those conversations, opening a space up so that the patients do feel comfortable to disclose their sexual practices there. A lot of doctors are like, oh, if I skip over this, it just act like it doesn't happen. That's fine. But a lot of things get missed. That's how we get the statistics today of higher HIV rates, and that's how we're in the boat today. So we're looking for a future tomorrow to be able to be completely open to your providers and comfortable, and so that you understand your risks and how to manage those risks.
How would you suggest someone start having that conversation with their doctor? It's like you said, it's something that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. But what if someone is interested in PrEP, but how do you, what kind of tools would you give them? They'd be like, okay, start the conversation with this way, or maybe start with asking this question. Is there a way to kind of help ease that, kind of miscommunication or uncomfortableness?
I always say the first part here would be educate yourself around PrEP. Because sometimes even doctors don't understand it, or they're like, "PrEP, what are you prepping for?" And you're like, "Oh, no,
a lot of things."
Yeah, right.
So sometimes you have to educate yourself to educate your provider. Even I remember my first experience. I went to 3 doctors before I got prescribed PrEP. And the first one was like, "What's that for?" And I was like, "How do you not know this?"
Yeah.
The second one was like, "Yeah, I'll just give it to you." I was like, "No, I think there has to be labs that need to be done with that." There's a process. I read on the CDC guidelines. There's a process. And it was like, "Okay, I'll look it up." And so I was like, "I don't really feel safe." And then I finally found a doctor that we had discussions around it. But one thing, when you're looking at PrEP, think of PrEP as more than just a medication. Think of it as routine testing. Think of as understanding sexual risks, understanding how to condom usage. I know that everyone's like, I'm on PrEP, I don't have to use condoms. There are other things out there, and condoms usage still should be part of your strategy to minimize your risk.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, there are medications and there are treatments and there are providers like QCarePlus providers that are there for you to make it easier to have those discussions. So to answer your question, just be brave. You can test out your provider to kind of just understand their understanding of PrEP. If you feel comfortable, continue to disclose. If not, ask for maybe a different referral, or ask the provider, say, hey, can we talk about my sexual health and talk about that piece. Typically your provider is going to open up at that point.
Would you mind talking about a little bit about the process to even get on PrEP, so that way people it seems more obtainable, if that makes sense? I feel like some people who may not be into PrEP maybe thinking it's so much extra freaking work and I have to do all this. Would you mind talking a little bit about the process of getting on PrEP so they can understand that it's actually not that hard?
Yeah, absolutely. So the general process is that you want to get labs taken before you start PrEP. The labs that we're looking to make sure that the patient has a negative HIV status. If you are HIV positive, you're going to need additional medications to help you reach that undetectable status. That's more than just Descovy or Truvada. So you're going to need additional medications there. So the first test that we're looking at is your HIV status. Once we know that your HIV status is negative, we're also going to look at your kidney function. We want to make sure that your kidneys are overproducing, or that the medication is causing an issue with your body. Additionally, you want to look at also STIs. You want to test for STIs as well. Now, that's not essential for starting PrEP, but it is best practice.
Okay. That's simple enough. Yeah, come on now, people.
Yeah. It's very easy.
Where does, I guess, QCarePlus fit into that process? Do I need to go to my primary care doctor first, or can I be like, you know what, I'm not feeling comfortable still with the primary that I have. Maybe I'm in a smaller town area where they're not as accepting of the lifestyle that I have, and me being me, quite frankly, like, yeah. So it's just like, you're already on edge about that. If they're listening to this episode, say like, oh, that might be an option for me. How do they do that? And then on the other side, do they have to still tell their primary care doctor that we went to QCarePlus instead?
So the first step to accessing PrEP would be going to QCarePlus.com and signing up. We're currently live in 13 states. We're expanding states really quickly as soon as we get those licenses. So we hope to be in all 50 states very soon. But the first step would go to QCarePlus. We're going to ask you some basic demographics. We want to get to know you. We're going to make it easier for you to ask these questions, these sexual health questions. And then we're going to schedule some time with our provider. That first visit is like a FaceTime with the doctor. Makes it really comfortable that you can do it literally from anywhere. We have patients that literally are on the side of the road in their car, FaceTime the doctor, or at home on their couch. It's great. Or even traveling. You could do it.
It's like, I'm in the airport right now. Hold on. I'm going to TSA. Hold on.
See the X-ray going over the phone.
So I need this PrEP for this weekend, boo. Sorry.
Pretty much. So once our provider sees the patient, we can send the at-home lab kit to patients. We can also send the patient to a local Quest. So the at-home lab kit does come in the mail. It's very discreet packaging. You do have to prick your finger. So for some people, that's a no. Like, I hate needles, so it's really even hard for me to do it sometimes, to prick my own finger. But you prick your finger, you're filling in a blood spot. You are doing the swabs for the STI check, and you're putting it back in the mail. And then based off those lab results, we will prescribe your medication. It'll go directly to our partner pharmacy. Our team also works to make sure that everything is completely free for patients. So if you have insurance, we're going to get you on a copay card that's going to cover some of the costs. If you're uninsured or even undocumented, we can get you into programs from the manufacturers that can pay for the medication. And so there's 99% of our patients pay $0 out-of-pocket costs for medication, for treatment, and the labs. Which is really
huge.
Cool.
That's huge. My mind is blown.
Because a lot of folks think, and it's true, like, PrEP can be very expensive,
yes.
Which has been a barrier for a lot of folks. And if you maybe like a couple years ago heard the cost and was like, I can't afford that, and you might still have that thought in your head, like, I have no other option at this point. This is another option for you to check into, because price, and obviously we know the healthcare industry in America, but price shouldn't be a barrier for you to take care of yourself, your sexual health. So that's
absolutely
incredible to hear.
Y'all are really doing the work of the community. That's amazing to hear. Like, I remember when I first heard about PrEP as well too, and the first thing I thought was like, that's how much? Like, that's a lot. But by the time I got to a point of understanding PrEP and wanted to take PrEP, I was already in a monogamous relationship. So like, I'm at a point where I don't feel like I need to, and I ain't trying to create no issues in my relationship, being like, well, I want to take it. Like, I ain't out here doing nothing, but same time I want to be helped. Like, maybe I don't trust you, but I don't want to put that out there,
Like, I've taken, like, even like early on, because like, for me, I almost feel that it's a way for me to still control as much as I can control.
Yeah.
It's not me wanting to sleep with everybody out here, et cetera, et cetera. It's literally, I don't know what you're doing at the end of the day either. And if there's a means for me, and especially like if my body's able to take it, and like there's not ill effects and side effects that are harming me, obviously you go in every 3 months to get tested, et cetera, to make sure, is it your kidneys or your liver?
Kidneys.
Kidneys. Yeah.
Kidneys. Make sure like your kidneys are still functioning good. Like, so that's what I've kind of always thought it is. It's just like, I don't plan on stepping out or stepping outside whatever rules are in whatever relationship, but it gives you another option of just in case, because it happens. Like you hear stories of, I thought I was in a monogamous relationship and then I get tested and now I'm positive. True. And it's just like, so that's how I can almost say it. But like, it is a conversation you need to have if you're in a relationship, though, nonetheless.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And I mean, you can always, you trust yourself, right? And so you could trust yourself over, you can trust someone else taking their medication and trusting them to take care of you. And this way you take complete control of your health. And you know that you're protected, right? You know that you're going in for those routine tests. And like you said, you never know what happens. When you look at the new infection rates in women, for example, those are the 1 in 7 people who have HIV don't know it. So there's a lot of people who are HIV positive that don't even know. Wow. And that's one of the things that's been very rewarding. As you said, you're doing the work in the community. We have a higher positivity rate because what's happening is a lot of people's accessing PrEP through QCarePlus that would never step foot in the door of a clinic or a doctor or be able to even have those conversations. And what happens if I do test positive with QCarePlus? QCarePlus can work with you to make sure that you have linkage to a primary care provider that can help you take the next steps to taking control of HIV and help you get to undetectable. So we're not just going to test and throw you out there. We're going to make sure that you have all
right. Be like, sorry, girl. It's like, no, what is my next step? So,
but seriously, I want to buy you a drink. I am just like over the moon right now. I'll buy you a drink.
Cheers.
Right, clankety clank. I know.
Right.
I'm drinking vitamin water today. Normally we got something. So like, okay, like that's my next question then. Like, so say you do test positive. Do you guys only handle drugs for PrEP, or do you guys also handle the prescriptions that you need to live a healthy you equals you life?
We're working towards being able to maintain someone's medication for HIV patients. One of the pieces there is the labs. Our at-home kit is not going to be able. We're not going to be able to test everything that we need for those at-home kit labs.
Gotcha.
But through our partnership with community-based organizations, we call them CBOs. These are the nonprofit organizations that you probably have heard of in different areas. For example, here in Atlanta, we work with ERC, Empowerment Resource Center. They do a lot of work in the entire state of Georgia. Yeah. So we can link that patient to them who have federal funds to help pay for those extra labs and those extra medications and help the patient just get stable. We typically start, it's called rapid ART. ART is the drug class for PrEP medication and HIV medication. So what we'll do is we will send them to Quest, get their baseline labs, get them started on ART so we can get them stable, get the T cells stable and up, and then link those patients into that primary care doctor. The other thing with HIV that you have to consider is that there's a lot of typical comorbidities that you need to treat with people. So anything can make a person sick. And when somebody is HIV positive, typically they could be susceptible to other diseases and getting sick easier, diabetes and things like that. A lot of people who are HIV positive are on multiple medications to make sure that everything is in control. And what we want to do there, that's better not to be done virtually, at least to get a person to that point where they can take control of their own health.
Gotcha. And you touched on something a little earlier too about just like undocumented folks, which is huge. Like I care about that a lot. So I'm assuming you have like different languages and things like that. There's ways for them to communicate their needs still with QCarePlus.
Absolutely. So we do a lot of advertisements are in English and Spanish. We do have translation services available. We have providers that speak Spanish. We also have translation services that can translate pretty much into almost any language. Okay. And so it's just like kind of like a three-way call between the provider and the patient with the translator to make sure the patient understands their health strategy and can access PrEP as well.
Did we ask the question earlier how you got to the point of even creating QCarePlus? Like, how did the idea even become something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so my background, I've always worked in specialty pharmacy, focused in with HIV medications, and working with community-based organizations. So community-based organizations can access special drug pricing, and they are what's called safety net systems. So they get federal funds from the government, which allows them to purchase drugs at lower prices. And so in my previous life of working with Avita Pharmacy, I was working with programs across the US. Originally as director of marketing there, I moved into account management and as a 340B executive, and was able to help programs get started, help programs do outreach, and really understand how to create PrEP programs and to remove those barriers.
Right.
When we started, like when PrEP started, I mean, there's still a ton of barriers, and what QCare does is try to remove as many of those barriers as possible. And we do that through technology and those partnerships. But for some of the organizations and providers, there's still barriers. Going to an office every 3 months sometimes can be a barrier for patients. I traveled every week, so getting my labs done at my doctor's office is like, oh, let me try to schedule my life in advance as pretty much possible.
Yeah, that's true. And I was like looking at your out, like literally every time I go to the doctor, I'm like looking at my Outlook. They're like, do you want a morning or evening? I'm like, bitch, I don't know right now. It's like, just give me whatever, and I'll try to figure this shit out. But no,
then you call them, you're like, I can't make it. And they're like, okay, 3 weeks later, you're like, no, but I'm out of medication.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, shit. It's like, come on. So no, I like that piece a lot. But why should they trust QCarePlus? Be like, okay, Kerel and Jerrell told us to go to QCarePlus, but why the hell should they?
Yeah, I mean, our providers are very experienced. All of our providers are AAHM certified. So they have special certifications and understanding around the medications and what's needed for those patients. Our patients also, our providers are also, every one of my providers so far are part of the LGBTQ community. So stigma, awesome. They're able to, we do a lot of sensitivity training. We talk about pronouns. We use pronouns a lot and making sure that we understand somebody's gender and their gender identity. And talk to them in that way. So we use nicknames. So if you have a nickname in your QCarePlus profile, that's what I'm calling you as.
Auntie Q. Auntie Q.
Exactly. Like, hey, Auntie Q, it's time for your PrEP. So we want to connect it with folks where they are and who they are, and to be able to provide a solution so the patients feel safe to disclose their sexual history, to disclose their what they do. I always laugh because one of our providers still asks the question, do you do any recreational drugs? And people are like, oh, no. And it's like, and she'll start going to the list. It's like, you don't do this. And they're like,
it's like, I wasn't PB.
Oh, that's recreational. That's recreational.
Right. They're like, how do you know what that is? And she's like, I do, but I want to make sure that you're taking.
Like, I feel seen right now.
The best is like when they first start, they're like, oh yeah, I'll only top. And then by the end of the visit, they're like, okay, I've said that sometimes. Okay, I'm full.
Right, it's like, yes, I just got blasted this weekend, my bad. But no, that's a true conversation. That just goes to the feeling comfortable part of it, because it's just like, again, like I remember when I lived in Indiana, before like I was like out and things like that. Woo, girl, and literally
you said Indiana and I was like, got it.
No, exactly. It's like I was like right out of college, starting corporate America and all this stuff, living in an area where I still didn't see a lot of gay folks, a lot of LGBTQIA plus community. But even one of my good straight friends went to the same primary care doctor. And one day he's like, man, I feel like Dr. XYZ, I won't even put his name out there. He's like, I feel just so judged about my life all the time. I'm like, and in my mind, knowing that I was like gay and like some of the conversations I was trying to have with them, I was like, girl, if you only knew, like the conversations I've been trying to have. And when I thought to move to Chicago after that, was the first time in like my life where I was just like, wow, luckily I was able to find a primary care where I was able to have these conversations about, oh yeah, I was at Steamy's this weekend, man. I need to get checked and things like that. But it's just like being vulnerable enough with your provider is so key to ensure sexual health. Like that is so huge. And like, so say like they go to QCarePlus, they get their information. Is it coming in like a big ass Amazon box on my front porch? Like, is that like they're gonna be like, oh shit,
No.
Kerel got that new PrEP today.
No, it's all very discreet. So the packaging from QCarePlus, the lab kit, it looks like you've been just shopping online. You get a little small box. When you open that box, it does have a sleeve on it that has QCarePlus, that has QR codes with videos talking about how to take the labs and some resources to make sure that you have everything you need in case you have questions. And then the prescription box looks like you've been shopping online at Amazon. It's a small box that's going to come with your prescription. It doesn't even have the names on it. It says shipping department.
Okay.
It has your name on it and it says shipping department. So it's very discreet. So your neighbors don't have to know that you're getting prescriptions sent to your door. And it looks like you've just been shopping online at Amazon.
Right. Perfect. And again, like
which for me, that's always
same.
Girl, literally this UPS truck, and I hear the dogs across the street barking every time. I'm like, oh, FedEx or UPS is here for that order. But and I forget what I was about to say that piece after that. I just got started thinking about Amazon.
She does it.
Damn, Amazon does, baby. I forget what I was about to ask you. That was a good question.
You're off track.
You know what's gonna happen? You're gonna be at Amazon later tonight, and then it's
like,
gonna come back to
question.
you.
Damn, what was my question? Oh, what? So within PrEP, I think you kind of hit on it earlier, but you kind of mentioned it in a sentence. What are your options as PrEP? What are your, like? Is there only one drug? Are there two? Because like I've heard there's a second one now that has become even more prevalent than just like Truvada. I know that was kind of like the OG. What are your options now for you to take PrEP?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is a question that's changing a lot recently. So Truvada was the original medication for PrEP. And then the newer medication is called Descovy. The difference between the two is that Truvada, Descovy has less tenofovir in it. So Truvada is made up of two drugs. And so the Descovy just has a little bit less of that, which is a little better for your kidneys.
Gotcha.
A lot of times people, and now there are generic Truvada. There's one called Teva, and there are several more that are entering the market. So there are some generics for Truvada that are coming out to the market. Those are a little too soon to really understand like the names of them because they keep changing things all the time.
Gotcha.
But one thing to consider, I know a lot of people will say, I'm scared of Truvada, I'm scared of taking medication, right? And there's not a lot of studies on it. Truvada's been around since 2004. So Truvada with a third medication is used for HIV treatment. Mm-hmm. And then in 2014, it was indicated for patent for PrEP for pre-exposure. So for prevention, and that's where we have PrEP, the PrEP that's that we have today.
Okay. And we just need to get rid of the stigma too. Like, and I think even just in friendships and groups and circles that do know what PrEP is, there's always this stigma. It's like, oh, you're on PrEP, you just want to be a hoe. Oh, you're taking this, you just want to be a slave, you just want to sleep with whomever. Hey, sleep with whoever you want nonetheless. Like, who gives a fuck what people are saying? Like, there's no slut shaming there. But that's not the case. Like, again, this is a tool in your tool belt to ensure sexual health. And we need to make sure folks understand that, especially in Black and Brown communities, because we got to get rid of these stigmas and finding ways to be healthy as long as possible, quite frankly.
Yeah, and being proactive and protecting yourself too should never be shamed.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should always want to take care of yourself and put your best foot forward when it comes to your health, and if this is one way to ensure that, then that's all right, but to automatically associate how sexual you are with the fact of protecting yourself, that's not all right. That's not what it should be at all whatsoever.
Right. And we shouldn't slut shame for people who are on PrEP. You're on PrEP because they're taking control and they're taking a step forward to protect themselves. And just because someone's on PrEP does not mean they're a slut. One of my best friends always joke, I'm like, you're the most asexual person. Like, and he's like, he's on PrEP. That's great. I'm happy you're on PrEP. I was like, you're not using it, but that's great.
Right.
It's like, use that body, boo. Use that body.
And the other thing there too is that for a lot of times people are like, oh, PrEP's only for men, right? That,
Right.
men, only gay men get HIV, and that's totally not true. And when you look at statistics, again, women are typically are at risk for HIV as well. About 1 in 48 Black women are likely to be diagnosed with HIV during their life, which is another crazy statistic, that we're in what we're talking about with Black and brown communities, where, oh, that doesn't account for me, or I'm good on that. We want to make sure that access is available. When you look at PrEP usage, it's mostly gay white men, and that's great that they're using it. But we want to make sure that we're able to reach everyone with PrEP, so that's where we try to take a stance of advertising in different places to say, hey, PrEP's also right for me as well. Right. So if you see a QCare ad on Grindr, Scruff, Jacked, Pornhub, Facebook, Instagram, we're all over the place. So
it's like, oh, that's where I saw that. Pornhub, that's where I saw that shit at.
But I'm glad you mentioned, the statistic on Black women getting it too. I mean, my first personal interaction with someone who had AIDS or HIV was my aunt, and she was diagnosed in '97, and I watched how it really kind of tore through my family, and her diagnosis played in part in, the rest of her life. And, we lost her in 2014. But, I mean, like, it's the thing with HIV and AIDS, it doesn't discriminate, and, once upon a time, they said that lie that it only happened to gay men, but that's not the truth at all whatsoever.
Absolutely
if
not.
You're out there being sexual, you have the risk just as the next person to your left or to your right.
Exactly. And just also just common myths around HIV too. I can get it after drinking after you. No, that's not it. I can get it with kissing with a gay person. No, that's not it. No. And and just understanding and having real conversations about what it actually is, how it's actually transmitted, and how to protect yourself is something that's important for all communities.
Absolutely. I know that was actually, I think it's still out there, and I was asking Auntie's question from a straight woman saying, even within the straight world, how can they have these conversations with even straight men to ensure that she's taking as much control, as she wants within her world, because she actually works at a clinic that works with the LGBTQIA plus community. So she's educated. But her question to us was just how do I have these conversations with the straight men that I'm dating that, hey, you need to make sure your sexual health is up to par and things like that, because I know the risks, I see the data, I see the statistics, and it's not just a quote unquote gay disease.
We get a lot of straight guys that will reach out to us, or and straight females as well, that reach out and be like, hey, I think I have an STI. Can you treat us for that? And we're like, we can absolutely treat you for positive STIs, but we also want to have a discussion around PrEP. And they're like, oh, I don't need that. I'm like, these things are transmitted the exact same way. And how easy as you got this STI is how how you could possibly potentially get HIV in the same mode.
Like it could be this time, but it could be something else, just as easy.
Right. And the other thing there too is not to try to scare people into it. Right. Because that all that does is add more stigma to it and add more I'm scared to talk about it because I'm scared that I have it. You want to be able to talk openly about these things. Just like we talk openly about COVID, for example. Yeah. I've had COVID. I don't have COVID. I had a vaccine. I haven't had the vaccine. I had Moderna or Pfizer. That's how sexual health should talk. I'm on PrEP. It's fine. Or absolutely. I'm on PrEP. I understand it. What this is.
And that actually sparked another thought. It's just I've seen in recent news articles where they're getting, what's the word I want to use? There's progression in an HIV vaccine. Do you have any insight on that at all, and how that will affect potentially QCarePlus and how folks see PrEP and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I to discuss that, let's cover some of the history of HIV. When we start identifying HIV and the first drugs that came out, That was like prescribing, like saying I had a headache and prescribing 5 grams of aspirin, basically.
Right.
You know, that's where we were there. To moving to cocktails where we had people on 10 to 10, 15 to, you know, several, like tens of medications a day, multiple times a day. And, you know, they were like, oh, what's your cocktail, basically? Because you had to take so many pills. It felt like a whole meal, basically.
Yeah.
To now we have medications that are 1 pill regimen that can, like a 30-day, can fit pretty much in a mint container. That's phenomenal. We just this past year have an injectable available where somebody can go and get a shot instead of take a daily pill. For some people that have problems with adherence, would have problems remembering their medication to take their medication, that's a great solution. And, you know, at the closer that we get to a vaccine, the better. You know, to say that you can cure something in infectious disease is phenomenal.
Yeah.
One disease that we're able to cure these days that is hepatitis C, for example. Hepatitis C is completely treatable and curable. And to be able to say you're cured of this is a powerful statement. And it's just a testament of how far we've come and how far we have to go to get to that vaccine.
Awesome.
But to the other side of that question, how is that going to affect the QCare model? If QCare is no longer around because we don't have a need for HIV,
amazing.
That service that I'm completely fine with that.
Absolutely.
Because that means that, you know, HIV is not a problem. Do I think it's going to be soon? I think, you know, you're going to have a mixed model of people who prefer PrEP, who might prefer the vaccine, who might prefer injectables down the road. It's really, you know, just going to depend on people's preference of medication and how accessible it is. And that's where today we're trying to make it as accessible as possible.
Love it. So before we get to the Ask Your Aunties question, where can they find you? Name the website, their social, and all that good stuff to ensure that folks know where to find you all.
Yeah, our website is QCarePlus.com, QCarePlus.com, and our socials are GetQCarePlus.com. So we're on all the main socials, Instagram, Facebook. We have fun content there. A lot of fun ads there that you can follow, and then we're always open to conversation. So if anyone needs any information or just has questions about their, you know, in general sexual health and about PrEP, we're available. We want to become a resource. We have a website that has great resources there. We can work, if we're not in your current area, we can work with you to make sure that you have access.
Absolutely. I know when you guys reached out to us, we're like, perfect. Finally, someone that we could just definitely dive into a lot of this, because again, we hit on it here and there throughout the 115 plus episodes we've had, but we just really want to dedicate an episode to really kind of provide answers and then also provide a service that can to help those, especially those that might live in areas where it's harder to get proper care and PrEP and things. So no, we appreciate it.
And I really hope the community, like, please share this episode. Like this, I mean, this is an episode where there's a lot of knowledge that needs to be shared, and I really hope those that are listening are just share, because this is something that the community really needs to grow on. This is an area that we need to be better at, for sure.
Yes, stop the stigma of sexual health, and stop the stigma of HIV, stop the stigma around AIDS, all of it. Like, we need to just, you know better, you do better, hopefully.
Right.
Exactly. And the more you know, the better off you are. So the more that you learn about it and not just hearsay, the better, you know, we are as a community. And the more that we're able to educate other people to reduce that stigma.
For sure. But all right, what time is it? What time is it?
Ask
your
auntie.
All right, it says, I matched with a guy on Tinder a few months ago. In the beginning, he flirted with me, and I could tell he was into me, but I was always scared to flirt back. So I always kept our conversation surface level and never really flirted back. We've become pretty great friends, but I feel like I've put myself in the friend zone by not reciprocating the flirting with him early on. right now he's going through a lot of heavy family stuff. So I'm really afraid to tell him now that I'd like to be more than friends, since I feel like he's already going through so much emotionally. What should I do?
Auntie Q, you can go first.
Well, first of all, if he's flirting with you, then he's into it. So you should definitely flirt back. Second, if you're on the dating apps, you're typically not there just to make friends. You're there to flirt. So absolutely flirt back. And even if this person is going through a lot mentally, emotionally, maybe that is their way to escape it, is be flirting, and you might be able to provide more than just the solution with flirting with this person as well. So you might go into the friend zone a little bit, but you might also have a great time with it too.
What are you thinking, honey?
I mean, I'm pretty much with Auntie Q on this one. Like that was pretty much where the race started. So, you won't be technically going back. So that line has already been crossed. So go for it, I say. But the thing I would make sure is just make sure that you read the room. Like if he's talking about oh, my grandma didn't die, don't be like, so can I get that booty hole?
Right,
don't be like that, or be like,
what the dick look like?
Mouth do,
right, what that mouth do?
Read the room first, before you start to float back or anything in the line of anything of the sort like that. But if you have gotten to a point where you are at least friends, I think you should be able to do that. And I think you'll do it in a way that actually might be something that the person might appreciate, because as a friend, I would think that you would know how I would feel, or you at least be able to connect to me in a way that a random person on the app wouldn't be able to do.
Right.
So you have a little bit more insight to the individual. So your approach will come from a completely different space and be received completely different than a stranger. So the person actually might be like, dang, that person was there for me in a time of need where I wasn't even asking for it, and that person was there. And let me tell you, I would drop these draws fast with someone who just put their, who was thinking about me first without me having to ask. I'd be like, what underwear?
Right,
what?
None.
What?
Floor.
Exactly.
That part.
Bad.
Because that, I've said it many times on this podcast, that's one of my love languages. It's when, and I forget the name of that love language, but it's when people just think of you and do things without you having to ask and shit like that. I'm like, oh, okay, hold on. I feel a little loved. I feel a little flushed in the system.
And you're gonna miss every shot that you don't shoot. So you have to
literally and figuratively.
And you know what? Keep shooting, baby. Keep shooting, baby. I'll be coming back.
I know that's true. That's true.
Pew, pew, pew.
But I feel that I've been in situations in the past where it's just okay, it's we're flirting and he's flirting, whomever, and then sometimes you almost get so taken aback that they're flirting hardcore back with you that you're like, oh no, I don't know what to do. And so it's it might be, I mean, we kind of always get back to this on this podcast as well. It's just that self-worth thing. It's just if they're flirting with you, they're doing it for a reason, so accept that, take that compliment, and then take everything else that you want because they're seemingly giving it to you. But it's okay to flirt back. It's okay to be like, you know what, I think this person, and it's okay to at least acknowledge that, yes, they might have a lot of stuff going on. But like Jerrell said, let them know that you're here for them. Continue to flirt back because that might be what they need in this moment. And you never know what's going to happen. Get out that friend zone. Yeah. Stay at the auto zone, not the friend zone.
I mean, I ain't going to lie. I ain't going to lie. A little kindness is kind of sexy. It just shows that you have, depth to who you are as a person, and you're more than just your body. So when you bring that type of personality to it, I'm telling you, I'll fuck you. Wait, I'll fuck you first before I fuck this bomb ass body over there. That's just me personally. But I do got a question for y'all though. Have y'all ever been friends with someone where you missed your chance? Have you passed up the opportunity with a friend? I'm just friend zone for the rest of my life, but if that path cross, I smash.
Yeah, that also makes that friendship. You're like, okay, was that a flirt, or was that we're friends, or was, it makes it a little awkward there too.
Yes, you constantly double touching
you have to be direct what you want to. I mean, and you have to read the room. Like I said, don't be too direct, but there's a way to be direct and be like, this is what I'm here for, and this is what. Oh, you're not, or you are. Okay, perfect. But you're not. Cool. I can do that too.
That's very true. That's very
First ability, right?
Yeah. There's a couple
know
of. There's a couple. First line down.
I don't know her. I know my ministry.
I'm double ministered here.
Wait, whoa. What are we talking about now?
Take what you need to.
No, apparently you in double ministry, bitch. Apparently you are.
Wait, what did we say in last week's episode with Steven Tyler? A double dick mouth?
A two dick mouth. A two dick mouth. Yeah.
Oh dear God.
Oh.
But yeah, but no, that's interesting. Like, and I guess like even some of them like maybe not be like they're not like friends, because after a certain point, like it gets awkward though. Like if they're like friends, like that's like your Judy's. Be like, oh, okay, that's just gonna make shit just way more complicated than it needs to be. But there's some acquaintances that be like, damn, I probably had a shot and I just didn't take it. And you still looking good years later.
Yeah.
Like friends are used loosely too. Like you have like your great friends, your Judies. You have friends. You're like, oh, we're friends. I don't ever hang out with this person, but I'm friends with them. I know that person.
That part.
Yeah, there's differences there too. So
also, those are the friends. Those are the friends that can still get it. Okay,
right,
got you.
Right.
Oh, that's friend.
Okay.
Because we did say, remember, don't fuck your friends.
Don't fuck your friends, right?
That's
you,
you
can fuck people that are acquaintances and whatever out there, whatever that is.
Right.
But like your Judies,
also,
like that just
like there's so many friends. There's so many friends that like you're like, oh, we had sex. Like it's not a big deal. Like that, like we had sex in the beginning, now we're friends. Like that's also a path too. Like sometimes you have sex with people.
I only have two friends like that. I only have two friends that I
we know your number is 26.
And actually, my number is 26. And actually, I said two. The other one's an associate. So I only have one friend that I call an actual friend that I've actually hooked up with.
Yeah.
Other than that, never ever thought about crossing the line or have. Everyone else is just an associate, and I stay away from those. That's the forbidden fruit.
That's
so I'm like, no, not
right.
me.
It's like you ain't fucking up my life right now. It's like I'm in a good spot. I'm in a good spot of life. Don't become tempting me, looking all good and delicious. Oh man, but no, that's a great question. Thank you for sending that question, and continue to send your questions in to ask you. That's twice that I've done that. Like I have not said this line for hundreds of episodes. AYA@MinoriTeaReport.com. Send your questions there or DM us. Dear Jesus, what's going on with me? Twice in a row. It's like, man. But yes, continue to send your questions. AYA@MinoriTeaReport.com or DM us. But what else is going on? Like, are you guys gonna watch? Like, by the time this episode comes out, the Oscars would have been yesterday. Are you watching? Do you care about the Oscars anymore?
Is it live? I mean, I'm not watching. Maybe if it's a social thing, I'll watch it.
That's a no.
Like, if it's a social thing with friends,
that's a no.
I'm totally gonna do it. It's a no for me. It's a total no for me.
Are you watching?
I mean, honestly, I couldn't even tell you like outside of like Soul, like what other movies are like nominated. I can't tell you who's nominated for what. Like I can't. I know Her is nominated for her song.
I know Viola and what's her face, Andra Day. Those are the two that I know of.
Yeah, I'm rooting for them too. I'm rooting for everyone. Black per usual, and people of color. Yeah, I'm rooting for all PLCs. Like
absolutely,
that's the only thing that I know that I'm kind of rooting for. But I want Auntie Q. I'm not watching for the Oscars. Like.
One of my best friends just always hosts a party and be like, we had to write down who we thought was going to win. And I was like, I'm horrible. I'm the worst at like identifying celebrities or names. And so just like go through circles and names. I was like, one time I won, I was like, oh, I guess really likely.
Let me go get that lottery ticket now.
Yeah, I heard this name before.
Let me see who this is. I don't know.
Yeah, I used to do that, like the little kind of what was it, like a draft or an Oscar draft or Oscar rally where you would like guess the people in each category, and then like if you got them right, like you won a pool of money or something like that. I kind of used to be
money.
into
We
it.
were playing with more shots. Like
yeah,
you got it.
That sounds more fun too.
Oh, so you were leaving that party like on a good note. Like
there was an Uber being called at some point.
Seriously, it's like, ooh, Jesus, who won? Okay, another shot, don't matter.
What? How many associates were there after that? That's what I want to know.
There we go. I know. Like, here's the thing. I think we probably will, just because it's gonna be Sunday night. What else is on? What else is there to do at their point? But this is like you said, I don't know if I truly care. I care for Andra Day because she did kill that Billie Holiday role. That movie was pretty damn good. So like you said, I'm rooting for everybody Black in POC. But
maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll watch that instead of watching the Oscars.
Do it.
You totally should. That was she did amazing in that role.
Yeah.
I think I'll
killed
do that.
She killed.
Yeah, but I definitely will be watching Black Ladies Guest Show.
That's coming back.
That comes out on Friday. So as this episode come out, it would have came out last Friday.
Yep.
So I'm watching that.
And when does Insecure? What's the date for Insecure? Let's see.
I don't know if has that been released yet. I know they just wrapped up, but I don't think it's been released yet.
No, okay. Or I was just saying they put out the date yet. And then Pose is coming back.
Then, May 2nd, and then you got Legendary May 9th.
And when is Dear White People? Dear White People's coming back on Netflix, and this is their last season as well. So there's a lot of good series that are coming out that are ending, unfortunately, as well. I'm not too happy about that, but so I guess we got a couple. But actually, I ain't watching shit. I'm trying to get out Atlanta. I'm trying to travel. A bitch is vaccinated now, so shit, I'm out. Bitch, we went out Sunday Funday, and it was like probably the first time I had just gotten like lit in a year. And I came home and Corey was like, bitch, you drunk. I'm like, I know. Like we started at 1:00, and so you live in Atlanta, so we went to Guacky Margs on the Beltline. So we started there, and then one of my friends from Volleyball League is one of the bartenders there. So I'm like, hey, Michael, I haven't seen you forever. Hey, blah, 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 blah. So she was making them drinks hella strong. And then so we went, where did we go next? Then we went to Victory Sandwich Bar. So we just kind of like kept on just drinking down the Beltline. And then we ended up at 10. And it's still
I think I was there for a minute. We were probably in the same building. Yeah, I was there. So...
Well, if I run into you, I'll say, hey,
missed
girl.
Opportunities.
Damn, I should have shot my shot.
Kobe.
Okay, associate.
But literally, it was like, how many of us? It was maybe like 6 or 7 of us. And it just felt so good to be out again. Like, you almost forget that feeling. It's just like, it was gorgeous out. It was like maybe 72 degrees.
The weather in Atlanta has just been phenomenal this past like 2 weeks.
Just wait, y'all.
Perfect.
I know.
It's coming. It's not gonna last forever.
That first day when it just hits, you're like, fuck, here it is. You'll be like,
look, and my bitter ass over here just waiting like, take that. Because we ain't got shit over here.
It was actually kind of chilly today. But
no, in Louisiana, this is nothing compared to Louisiana. Like the humidity there is just like cutting air, and so I'm like, this like everyone's like summer here. I'm like, I love it. It's nothing for me.
That is true. But yeah, no, it was just great to be out. So I'm just like, okay, before all these extra variants pop up, and I'm still trying to be at least a little diligent. Like I still have my mask, and obviously once you're drinking, that shit come off. But it's just like. I'm trying to be aware because like you're starting to hear of stories of folks that have been vaccinated and they're starting to get it, which we knew you're not 100% vaccinated. That's not the case. Like it just tries to prevent like the severity of it. But it's just like, man, I'm just happy to be out on these streets again. I really am.
Yeah.
I remember my first time going back to the bar, and I felt like it was my first time back at a gay bar, like when I was younger, because I was like not making eye contact. I was like, I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. I was like hiding my face.
It's like you feel like you're being judged in a way. Like it's just like we've been like stuck in the crib so long, and then gays over COVID and all this stuff that you're just like, should I be here? Because it was hella packed. It was hella packed. And then we went to Blake's, which I've been adamant about not going because it's still indoors. And I'm still like, But
so they're not doing like the 6 feet like apart.
Oh, girl, hell no. You know.
Oh, see, let me tell you. Let me tell you. Here in Seattle, like they close the bars at midnight, and they've always been like, if a bar closes at midnight, that means they stop serving at like 11:25, and you are out by like 11:45, and they are closed. The employees are gone by midnight. Everything is shut the fuck down by midnight. So like we still haven't had like an actual like time to feel like it's been back to any type of normal. And on top of that, everything is still, 6 feet apart, and you can only have a certain amount of people at your table. There's no going back and forth between tables unless you're going to the restroom. Still need to have a mask on if you're going to the restrooms. Like they should have all this shit shut down. So people have been like sticking to going outdoors. Like we went to the gay beach this past weekend. It was like 80 degrees, and it was just nice to see everybody in a Speedo who like had gone through COVID too. Right? I was like, yes, body positivity. I was like, I was sitting over here and I was over here like stressing that I was gonna be the only person who looked like they didn't survive COVID, survive the pandemic, and everybody looked like it. I was like, I remember you like 2 summers ago, and I'm like,
Like,
and now I'm still like, damn, bitch. But I'm like, but we look the same damn bitch,
I'm here for it.
It was nice.
That is true. I was like, ooh, the boys are out. Like, I kept on saying, I'm like, ooh, the boys are out. Like, especially the Beltline. The Beltline anymore has become the spot where, especially dudes that are fit and things like that, will like run with their shirts off just to, quite honestly, probably to be seen. But I was happy they was out there running on Sunday. I was like, yes, Jesus, they're back.
You said run.
I always love the game.
Will not be seen.
The straight guys that run near like Blake's and 10 on Sunday during like the prime time, and you're like, and they're like, oh, don't look at me. You're like, okay, you're running.
It's like you're running in the neighborhood, girl. You know what you're doing. You shooting your shot right now, running through this neighborhood. We know what's up.
Like, don't get got. Don't get got.
They want to get got. Some of them want to get got, for sure. But yeah, no, I'm just thankful for those who made these vaccines, and I don't know, everyone still stays as safe as possible. I mean, everyone has their risk tolerance and things like that, but it was great. It was great.
Kerel, what about that question from the community too?
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Yes. So someone sent in, let me see here. So the question was, there was a post that went around that said, should white women be counted in diversity metrics and numbers? And so they sent it in just to see our thoughts on it. And I was like, okay, that's actually a very good question. Let me think on it. So I'll pose it to you two first, and then I'll give them my thoughts as well.
Can you ask the question one more time? I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Should white women be counted in diversity numbers and metrics? So like if they're saying a diverse group of people, should white women be included in the word diversity? And so it almost sounds like, should white men be the only one that's like the majority in a way?
So I go back and forth, thinking through, this past election, for example, how like Black women really carried a lot of the vote and how important it was. I think it is important so that we can understand metrics moving forward of how people behave, right? And how what type of behaviors certain groups have in different scenarios. For example, voting. I think that's important to understand what people do and how we can reach those folks, and how we can kind of start molding or changing the mind from maybe the way they were before. The term diversity kind of throws me off there because that's not diversity,
Yeah.
And so, do I think they should be counted? Yes. Do I think they should be receiving type of special treatment because of that? Absolutely not.
Yeah. What do you think of Jerrell?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn, and honestly, I think it really depends on like the situation, like the company, and all honesty, like the level that we're referring to the diversity in, you know. In a lot of corporate situations, you know, like white women are still part of the majority, the majority, you know. So like I don't want them to be part of diversity, because diversity should be representing those who are part of the minority, you know. So like for instance, literally I was like looking at and I know my supervisor listens to this show. So I was looking at our company's like website, like our kind of like little hub, whatever, and in the lower right hand corner was talking about like, well, look at, you know, looking to see what your colleagues are showing and are saying. And everyone was either a white man or a white woman, and there was one Latino woman like shown there out of 10 people, you know. And still of those 10 people, like 4 or 5 of them were white women, you know. So like they're not the minority. They should not be included in diversity in a lot of these corporate situations. But then when we were talking about like being a part of the community and being in these areas where there are minorities, I would love for white women to be represented in those situations. But when it's people of color trying to get a seat at the table, the people who already come with a seat at the table are white people, period. Whether you're man or woman, you automatically have an advantage over all people who are people of color. So I don't think they should be.
Cast?
No, I
read
haven't.
the book Cast? It's phenomenal. So it's kind of what you're talking about. It's talking about like how the U.S. is built on a caste system, and basically a social ranking, and how like we're all kind of like are made to play this parts, and we've been doing it for so long. It's just like we fall into those, and you know, we really have to disrupt that to be able to for minorities to be treated equally. And it studies the U.S., it studies like Nazi Germany, and it studies India, and the different caste systems there. And it's a great read, and it kind of covers like what you just said, like being able to separate, you know, study those pieces, but also separate so that people in a minority can rise up past those expectations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you both. When the question came in, my initial gut reaction was like, hell no. But then I was like, hold on, because like I deal with data all day, every day in my day job, and I, in a weird way, understand what the question was asking, because even for white women, white men have degraded them. So it's just like, I get it in that aspect. However, they're still white and they still have a lot more privilege than folks of color. And so to be counted as a diverse number, I don't think you should, because I think it's going to skew the data. But I get that, yes, there are still opportunities for women that they have not been able to break through. And that includes white women. So you almost need to have probably several different umbrellas and different questions of how you're framing that.
I agree, because of the queer community part too, because then you add, well, like,
absolutely,
what if it's a gay white man,
absolutely,
you know, or a trans white man, or, you know,
definitely,
whatever the case is, you know.
It kind of almost depends on what we're talking about and what we're trying to dive into, but just at surface level, no, I think it will definitely skew the data and probably provide them with additional opportunities that they didn't need help with getting in the first place. So, and we're going to put this question actually up on our social media just to see how everyone feels about it, because I'm sure there's a variance of how people perceive that question. And it'll be kind of interesting just to see how people chime in, and hopefully and be respectful out there. Like, we ain't trying to be like out here being fighting and shit, but it's an interesting, well, you know, maybe here and there.
You know me.
A little petty never hurts, but but yeah, it was an interesting question. I'm glad the person that sent this in felt comfortable to send a question in like that as well, for us to discuss. So community, let us know once you see that question go up. Please chime in so we can have a conversation, just see what your thoughts are on that. And yeah, I think there's just going to need to be several umbrellas because, like you said, even with the election data, I want to know what the white women voted and who voted and things like that. And you probably need to break that down just to see going forward how we could do better. But I
don't care about that because that's unexcusable. That is unexcusable. I don't care
so
about
you can
race
say
or
one
sex
way or the
on
other.
that. Like,
well, yeah, I guess that guy.
But
yeah,
I mean, like,
true.
I'm not gonna lie. I know plenty of, and I'm gonna say this, white women who their husbands are Republican and they voted Republican because of their husband. I know a lot of white women who was like, you know what, I'm doing what my spouse did. Yeah. You know, I'm just following them. Although you're my gay, you're my gay friend. I love you to death. Blah blah blah. I'm still doing. I've had to delete so many people. I know plenty of people. I'm not here for those numbers. There's nothing you can tell me that can excuse why you threw away your vote like that. Trash.
You're right on that.
100% agree with you there. I've wrote so many people off over the past 4 years, especially over the past election. And growing in that small town too, like I talk to my family pretty much, and so like that's it. And when I go there, I'm like, what is this? Like, it's just like, it is crazy. It's like a time warp, right? Of these people who are just backwards, and are just refuse to. My favorite was like this lady that she was like a relative of a relative. We're gonna have those in the country, everyone. But anyway, she was like you brainwash college kids, and I was like, wait, what? Like, I was like, Beverly, that does not make sense. Actually,
Beverly. Sorry, Beverly, that's not how it works.
That's not a thing.
I know it's wild what folks want to make up to believe just to justify their inhumanity, quite frankly.
Or just the excuses they come up with to stay where they are and to not do the work, to not be accepting. Like, you're doing all this work to really be on the wrong side. Like, there is no reason. You're making it up. So why not just make it simple and just give it the fucking program? Like,
I think the worst is like, I grew up that way. That does not excuse you. Like, I grew up a certain way too, but that does not excuse you from growing as a person and opening your mind and getting with the times.
Yeah, that one bothers me so bad.
No. Or don't get me started on those who want to also like throw religion in there too. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Let me take the earrings off. Let's buckle up because we in for a ride. I just
it's too much. But and one last thing, did you see that Levar Burton is pushing hard to try to be the host of Jeopardy? I know this is a sidebar. I just saw this today where it was trending on Twitter for a while. They're like, oh, we need Levar Burton to be the host. But now he's really campaigning to be the permanent host of Jeopardy, which I am so here for. Like, A, his voice is incredible. B, is a person of color to kind of switch it up, And who else is going to do better than him? Like, come on.
I mean, can we finally start calling it Black Jeopardy like they did on Saturday Night Live, though?
That part. That part. It's like, what you watching, Black Jeopardy?
Black Jeopardy.
Absolutely.
I just want to watch this and be like, I'm watching Black Jeopardy, y'all.
Absolutely.
Look, we're about to get some of our culture up in here. Look, they're going to be talking about us. Okay.
I can go twice this high. Take a look. It's in a book. A reading rainbow. That is
I'll
so
take
true.
food for 500, Alex. I'll like your chicken. What is fried?
The double Jeopardy of the day. The double Black Jeopardy of the day.
Right.
Here for it. But Quinton, thank you so much for hopping on with this. This is like just incredible work you're doing. And things we just definitely need for our communities, and especially living here in Atlanta, just seeing it day in, day out and hearing the statistics. So I'm so happy that you're doing this work. And anytime you want to hop on and give us an update or anything like that, let us know. States that you're expanding into, just let us know. We'll definitely get that message out there because it's so incredibly important to do.
Things we can share.
Yeah.
Anything.
Thank you, for giving me a platform. I appreciate it. Like coming on today. Today was a lot of fun. And I love to be able to just talk freely and talk about sexual health, and hopefully, like you said, like people will share this and people will feel more comfortable. And if you're looking for a place to get PrEP, QCarePlus.com. We'll definitely keep in touch to let you know where we're expanding, and as things are moving down the road for QCare. And we look forward to being back on it someday.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you have any like social media or anything else out of that, like the website or anything, like an IG or
Instagram is get QCarePlus, and then Facebook as well.
Perfect. So, well, community, hopefully you're staying safe out there. Hopefully you're having a hot girl summer, a hot girl spring.
From the couch. I'm going to encourage from the couch. Because let me tell you, I'm not doing another Thanksgiving or another Christmas at home. Right. So let me tell y'all, we got to make sure we're being smart during the summer, so we can have a holiday season.
A socially responsible hot girl summer. But even if you just got to show up on the gram, put them Speedos on. We'll double tap for you.
Right. And, yeah, that one, because I'm traveling too, but responsibly. So you're right.
Exactly. I'm the first to put on a mask and some hand sanitizer. But
wow, that's part of the whole experience.
Ooh, yeah. That's a new fetish. That's a new fetish.
No.
Oh, your
mask. What is this?
What's that fragrance you're wearing? Purell. Ooh, what's that mask you're wearing? Ooh. See, the whole world's just catching up.
Keep it there.
The whole world's just catching up to the gay community with masks and everything like that. It's just
right.
We've been there, done that. So anyway, community, wash your hands, wash your legs, wash your ass, and we'll see you next week.
All right, bye y'all.
Bye.